All right, boys. Here we go. In 3, 2. Welcome to the Ephesiology podcast, the podcast dedicated to the study of the early Christian movement and its implications for the church today. Today we're with Michael, our resident ephesiologist, Andrew Johnson, associate pastor at Neartown Church in Houston, Texas, and I'm Matt Till, lead pastor of Restoration Church in the suburban sprawl of Chicago, Illinois. Hey guys, it is great to be with you today.
Yeah, it is great to be with you guys.
Good to be seen.
Yes, as we are marching towards the summer months here. Today, we want to talk about the kind of really the state of academia, the state of Christian training, and talk about maybe the solution that ephesiology we've been working on behind the scenes and kind of share a little bit of vision for that with you, our listeners. But what I want to do is I want to go back and I want to talk about episode 25, if we can think about that for a moment. And episode 25 was recorded back in October of 2019. And this was on the heels of the Send Institute think tank that was held at Wheaton College here in the Chicagoland area that Michael and I attended. Andrew, you were sorely missed. And
yes, still regret it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. We're just going to keep rubbing that one in.
But they're virtually.
Yes, that's true. He was there virtually as we were relentlessly texting him. And at this think tank, if you recall, if you listened to episode 25, and if you haven't, I would strongly encourage all of our listeners to go back to find episode 25. You can do that at ephesiology.com, or hopefully it's still in your podcast stream. Do that after this podcast. And what we talked about at that episode was some findings that was really being kind of given to us, and there was all these movement leaders really from across North America were present, and looking at past trends, current trends, and forecasting into the future, and looking at the future church. And interestingly enough, even the case study that was brought to the table, Michael, you might agree with me on this, is that case study that was brought to the table was looking at the church of 2050. And it was assuming some political, social ramifications, and how do we dream up this church of 2050 with the information that we have today. I think you might agree that COVID-19, the pandemic, has only given us a preview of 2050 and has almost fast forwarded that kind of timeline, even if it's momentarily, right? We have now seen the immediate effects of really what that case study was trying to get us to look at. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, just thinking about being back there in October, none of us could have anticipated what we're seeing today. But I think you're right. I think COVID-19 has accelerated our thinking on where we need to be if, in fact, we're going to position ourselves, that is the church, Christianity, for growth in North America.
For those of us who weren't in the room, me, can you very, very quickly, without having to go re-listen to episode 25, give a super brief snapshot of with the case study that said this is what the church is going to look like in 2050, so that your comments make more sense?
Yeah, Matt, I think this is a place for you to interject, because you did this same exercise with a group of pastors in the Chicago area. So remind us, what was that case study?
He's pulling it up furiously, y'all. So just know that we are watching Matt's wheels turn. His face is getting redder because he feels that he is being put on the spot. And Michael and I are just staring at him, just with encouragement.
Oh, you guys, I knew you were going to ask this question, and I was like, all right, I need to pull this up. And
you were so prepared coming.
You pitched it.
I was.
You pitched it.
I know.
We were there with the bats, waiting and ready.
Found it. I got it. Here we go.
Because what comes out of this, and it's not really a case study, it's more of a scenario.
It's a hypothetical case study. Yeah, it's a hypothetical case study for the future. So, all right, I found it, and thank you for putting me on the spot. I was going to work on pulling this up, and I totally blanked. So here we are. We've got it now. Based on existing data, I won't rehash all of that. The case study was simply this. It's the year 2050. Again, it's a hypothetical. It's year 2050. North America no longer has a majority race. Religious nuns are nearly 40% of the population, coinciding with consumer and societal pressures through the late 2020s and 30s. Many private businesses and public schools no longer rent to evangelical religious institutions, and most local governments made it difficult for churches to own property in their communities. Now, again, this kind of is the political and the social aspects of kind of what we're projecting and seeing in the future. By 2040, federal laws were passed removing all tax benefits from religious groups and clergy unwilling to comply with new Declaration on Human Rights. As a result, that decade saw the largest closure rates of legacy evangelical churches, especially ones founded in the 90s and 2000s, matching the closure rates of mainline churches from decades before. So kind of looking at this concept of kind of forecasting, just depending upon where we're going to be socially, economically, politically, forecasting a stark closure rate of legacy churches. And I think, interestingly enough, as we look at what is happening with coronavirus and the economy right now and the pandemic, that might have accelerated that timeline for other reasons. That has yet to be seen right now. Michael,
right.
what were you going to say?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that, I mean, this kind of hypothetical scenario is based on some historic trends and then some projections on what it could look like. So there is some data that's behind this that is leading us to think in these ways.
Yeah.
But there's no way for us to be for certain that the political climate will be like as we're suggesting. However, just like you just said, Matt, I think COVID-19 is accelerating some of these, and it'll be very interesting to see what happens as we're coming out of self-isolation and businesses are opening across the country and churches are regathering across the country.
Yeah, and I even want to throw in, I know that I have been a little bit rosier on how things in Houston have gone as far as churches rallying around the mission that God's called us to. And I have been so encouraged. What I haven't brought to the table is I know of, I think 3, if not more, churches that have closed their doors, just said we're done because their model existed to meet in a school space on a Sunday morning. And they were not able to gather, and they did not see a path forward, and they shuttered.
Wow.
So what you're talking about of being COVID being a rapid indicator of where we might be.
Yeah, it's an accelerator.
It has accelerated lots.
So with that as the backdrop, and again, just to encourage our listeners, if you've got time to go back to episode 25, at least you'll be able to hear more of that conversation. One of the things that came out of that meeting with these movement leaders who are kind of facing and looking at the realities that are before us and trying to think about the church missionally, but also creating those movement dynamics again for the future church. One of those significant things that came up was really the need to rethink the institution, not just the church institution, but really our academic institutions that are used and have been historically used to train pastors and church leaders. And there was a lot of discussion about, I mean, not a significant discussion, but it was in discussion by saying, how should we think about the types of leaders that we're training for the future church? Because if the church of the future may not be able to support and sustain typical legacy formats of church where there's a building, there's a consistent income with a large gathering of people with program-driven ministries, how will we afford a building? How will we afford the professionalized pastor? And is there a place for the professionalized leader or pastor? And so these were some of the questions that started coming out, and there really was no solution given, if I recall, Michael, from that time, but rather it was just a stark reality that was given in the moment by going, we should really rethink this as well.
Yeah, because I think, the consensus in the group was that somehow institutionally we needed to reposition ourselves so that we could equip more people for ministry. And there was the recognition, of course, that seminaries have done that historically. But the person that they have historically equipped is the pastor. And that equipping has, focused on the preaching the word and counseling people in the church and shepherding those people, and not really on church planting necessarily. And that was kind of a part of the assumption here is that if we are, as North America is concerned, if we are going to gain a greater market share, if you will, of the religious market, then we must be starting more churches, and that then assumes that we need more people to start more churches. Now, and we've talked about, is church planting really a strategy? Church planting movements, is that a strategy? I've just recently argued in a blog that will be coming out before too long on Jackson Wu's blog, that church planting is a result. It's not a strategy. There's nowhere in Scripture that commands us to church plant, but it's clear that we need to make disciples. And so if disciple making is the mandate, then we need to, as a church in North America, be positioned to make more disciple makers. And the seminary doesn't necessarily do that. They make pastors by
They
and large.
professionalize. I mean, that's a big extent of what the seminary does.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And not in a negative sense. I mean, there is certainly a place for a seminarian. And I think in that room, there was consensus that we do need the theologian. We need the person who understands historic Christianity.
There's something to be said about the intellectual pursuit of the faith from a theological standpoint. Correct? I mean, I think everybody agrees with that and says, we don't need to burn this thing down. It does need to adapt and change. The other thing to think about is also what is happening and being played out in the very moment, as even we're recording this, is that you have hundreds of thousands of higher education universities, Christian and non-Christian, seminaries and non-seminaries, deciding how will they move forward. Already we have seen, much like the housing boom of the 2007, 2008 economically, people have been forecasting and have been talking about, and we've already seen some of the early effects of a higher education boom that is beginning to implode and has been imploding over the last almost a decade. And so you're now seeing costs rise for higher education. The cost to value ratios are going down. So the number of people who actually come with higher education degrees are finding that they're actually not as worth the degree than which they paid for. And as such, and with fees and other things like that rising and student enrollment beginning to drop, also the new generation, the millennial generation, Andrew and my generation and below, are not having as many kids as the previous generations did, and so they are predicting significantly fewer people going into into higher education, let alone regular elementary education. There is a coming collapse of some of those things, and so we also have to look at the whole higher education system is also in play right now, and trying to figure out and navigate these waters. And the pandemic has now forced them to reevaluate how are we going to move forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it's going to be this whole issue is going to be particularly acute with private institutions. Just today, this morning, a survey was released that is indicating that only 65% of incoming freshmen will actually attend college this year, or have indicated that they are willing to go back to campus. Maybe it was the total student population, 65%. Well, I mean, we look at that the other way. 45% are saying, you know what, we might not be coming back.
Yeah, 45%. We're not going. Yeah,
to campus.
Those are
they might be attending.
Statistics.
You know what? It is incredibly staggering to think. I mean, you think of places that we know about, private institutions. If 45% of students are not planning to return to campus, then there's a significant revenue hit on those campuses, because revenue isn't just simply generated from tuition. It's tuition, it's room and board,
housing, room and board. Yeah.
It's other ancillary fees that are added to education, and so some of those, they just don't come into play anymore.
And I think I think most people realize and know, but education is important, right? I mean, there seems to be that there is in fact a value for education. It's just the question is, has it become is it getting beyond what most people can begin to afford now, or has it become watered down? And there's this conversation of like, how do we get educated? How do we learn more?
Right,
And of
but
course,
don't forget to add to the fact that I don't think anybody has said education is not important. It's just that it's, again, accelerated through COVID. Some people have said education is important, but it doesn't have to take that form for me to have it. Like, if I had to I had to pay X amount of dollars so that I could sit in this higher institution surrounded by other people who also valued that dollar amount. If that was the only way education was before, then that became the limiter. And now people are seeing maybe that's not the case.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it puts us in an interesting situation for sure as we think about the generation that's coming up, and as well as the need for equipping people to make disciples.
so let's talk about that, because we now know that we realize we need education. We need people who are going to need to be trained and equipped in their leadership abilities for the kingdom. We need more kingdom leaders and more people who are going to faithfully preach and teach the gospel of Jesus Christ, right? In order to see a movement and to be able to pass those things on to others, right? And to be able to do it effectively and make it available for most, if not everyone, right? Not just here in North America, but globally, and to do it at a cost or even at an ability so that people are able to take this and see this movement that we keep talking about, to allow people to feel confident and equipped and empowered for this calling that they have deeply on their life, right? And yet they can't go into debt for it. They can't, like that would be, that's foolish. It's just foolish. So what is it that we think that perhaps and potentially the space is for the future for people to be able to be trained to really capitalize on the moment that we live in, this moment in our cultural time in space? What's that thing that we think that maybe could really empower people to take hold of this and to get the training and the teaching that they need?
Well, Matt, I'm glad you asked.
How'd you like that for a setup?
Dun,
Yeah,
dun,
right.
dun.
Yeah, well, at Ephesiology, we've been thinking a lot about not just harping on our current circumstances, but really thinking about a path forward. Where do we need to be, and how do we get there, and what might it look like? And so we don't want to just uh, wax eloquently on a podcast, but we want to be a part of the solution. And as we've been conceptualizing what that solution might look like, of course, training and equipping is a key part of that, because we know, just as Matt has said, we need to be able to equip a significant number of people for works of ministry. And in order for us to effectively engage the North American context and really the global context with the gospel. And so, as we've been thinking about this, we're excited to begin to promote what we are calling the Ephesiology Masterclasses.
So, Michael, these master classes that we are working on developing, you and I have been talking a lot about this, and this isn't really just a thing for. We're not. This isn't just a. This is not a business venture, and we're not trying to squeeze pennies. But I think you and I both see where, and I know Andrew does too, where the future is and where we are right now, and really having this myopic passion for God's mission in the world and his movements, that we realize that we need to figure out a way to give people a high quality um, education, a high quality access to training, to give them confidence to bring the gospel to their communities wherever they are. And I think when we look at the landscape, there seems to be no time better than now than to maybe consider launching something like this, where people can literally take classes. They can learn these things. And So this is I think really just kind of the natural next step for ephesiology, I think, as we just keep talking about it.
Okay,
Yeah.
so for those of us who haven't been on the planning side of all of this,
Who are you
what
talking
does
about?
no, I mean, I've been in it, but I am always the everyman. So I want to ask, as you both have articulated so well of that lag, that disparity between what we want and where we are, how do master classes, first of all, what are they? And then how are these going to answer some of the problems that we are seeing in the disconnect of the seminary system that we are presently thinking is the only route forward?
Yeah, those are the issues that we're trying to address, because again, we're recognizing the need to be able to equip many people, not just pastors, or the professional, or the academic, for that matter, but to equip all people for works of service. We recognize that, it, the Great Commission isn't something just for the professional, but is for everyone. To make disciples is a task that we all are about. And as we have been talking about so often at Ephesiology, that if we really believe that our identity is woven into God's family, then we all are a part of that mission. And we all need to be equipped to participate in that mission. And so the whole concept behind the Ephesiology master classes is focusing on being able to equip people for ministry, to give them an experience in learning that is not necessarily unique, but it's foundational and it's flexible, so that people can develop the ministry skills and competencies to be able to lead discipleship groups, to be able to engage in evangelism in their culture, but also to participate in missions around the world. And then we want these master classes to help students explore the possibilities of a new future. We recognize that in some capacity, while God certainly is at work in our culture, that we want to identify where it is that He's at work, join with Him in engaging people, and innovate ways in which we can do this in the most effective manner possible. And so we envision these master classes being very dynamic. These aren't going to be boring lectures from talking heads, but dynamic and interactive, and engaging with the learner in a way that it might resemble the classroom, but more than likely it will resemble what we so often talk about as doing theology in community. This is a collaboration on all of our parts, our experts as well as our learners, working together to think about solutions for the future of the church.
I think this is really for those who know that they have this burning desire to be a part of God's mission in the world. And for those who want change, they want to see innovation. They're looking for kingdom success, and it feels out of reach to them. Maybe they're feeling stuck. Maybe this is for a pastor or somebody who's maybe already gone through seminary and is like, man, I need something else. I need something more that's going to latch onto what you guys at Ephesiology are talking about, because I get this tribe. So show me, teach me, what else do I need to know? What didn't I learn in seminary? This is also for that person as well, because our goal is like, we want to unstick, and free you from either legacy thinking or from even where you've come from, or the paradigm that you found yourself in, and to lead into the next paradigm, to lead into the future of the church and God's movement in the world. That's who this is for. And I think, it's for everybody.
And I think one of the other advantages of what we are putting forward with the Ephesiology master class is that, again, some of these things are still shaking out, but there are going to be these videos accessible to you always. So if you are signing up and following these master classes, then you can take part in them when you need to. And I know that my alma mater, Phoenix Seminary, has this wicked awesome deal. Again, we are not pure deconstructionists here. We are not just tearing down everything that the seminaries are doing. And Phoenix Seminary has always done this awesome thing that for graduates, if you make it through, I can go back and I can audit classes for free. I can just sit in on classes. And that has always been an encouragement. If I really needed to brush up on something or grow in an area, I could go and do that virtually through Phoenix Seminary's online stuff. But you know what I have to do? I have to sit in class when they have classes. I have to go through it. And so it becomes this wonderful opportunity. But I feel hemmed in. And it kind of is like, well, I can't fit it in to my family life and what I've got going on. And so it becomes prohibitive. Some of the things that we are thinking through with Masterclass is that will not be a barrier.
No, this will be open to 24/7 access from your phone, your tablet, your computer, and literally anywhere in the world. We want to make sure that this is equipping education made accessible for everyone, no matter where you are. And too, one of the exciting things for me as we've been thinking about this and sharing the vision with others, just the enthusiasm that we're hearing from people in the church, but also in the world of academics. And so I'm super excited to be working with a team, and it's just not the three of us. We have 15 people with a tremendous amount of experience developing master classes on the various topics that deal with the personal competencies, spiritual formation, biblical competencies, as well as cultural competencies and leadership and ministry skill competencies as well. And so as I've been thinking about this team that we've been able to pull together so far, and we're hoping that team will grow as we see this being really a very effective way in which we can equip people for ministry where they are. And so the beauty of this is that people don't have to relocate to go to a seminary or an academic institution. You can do this from your home, where your place of ministry is, no matter where it is in the world. And so this incredible team that we've pulled together has been engaging the ministry contexts in the post-Christian West, in the Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, Shinto, and Jewish worlds, as well as former and current communist worlds. And they are an amazing group of people. They speak Arabic, Czech, English, Hebrew, French, Hindi, Japanese, Korean, Romanian, and Spanish. And plus, most of us will also be reading the biblical languages as well. And they are not only academics, but they're practitioners. They have been involved in ministry. I think collectively, I totaled up of nearly 300 years of experience in different places around the world. We've got people with PhDs. In fact, 7 of us have PhDs from the most prestigious evangelical seminaries in the country. 2 professional doctorates and 6 master degree folks that bring a wonderful complement of academics and experience, where we're hoping that they will be a tremendous blessing to people who participate in these classes.
So this is, as you can tell, just for our listeners, this is something that we've really been passionate about, something we're really working on building. And this is just the natural next step for what we believe Ephesiology hopes to do and to provide and resource you and those in your church or those in your faith community, those who are living on mission with you. Because we believe this and we know that it needs to take the next step, and this is how the movement will go. Michael, you listed off a lot of impressive things, a lot of impressive people, and their experiences. To some, it could seem a bit overwhelming, and maybe a bit intimidating. What would you say to maybe the person who's like, "Hey, I don't know, this might be more than what I'm thinking or asking for"?
Yeah, we were very selective in who we approached to participate with us in these master classes, and these are all reputable scholars, but not just scholars. These are practitioners. These folks are passionate about engaging our culture with the gospel. And engaging the global culture. I mean, they have missions experience, they have ministry, church life experience, as well as academic experience. And I think, for an academic, it is so critical that they just don't keep their heads in the academic silo, but they come out of that silo and practice what it is that they're teaching. And this is a team of international scholars who do what it is that they say. And I'm excited about that. And so these are, again, as I've said, these are classes that are made accessible, not just in terms of the technology, but in terms of the content. And so people can be assured that as they would participate in these master classes, are going to take the theory and drill it down to the practice, so that by the time you complete one of these classes, you will know what your next step should be. It might not look exactly like some of the content of the class, but you will be put in a situation where you will know what your next step is as you begin to apply the things that you've learned. And I'm excited too, because our instructors will be engaging with learners live through Zoom discussions, and then through various forums that will have discussion forums, as well as cohorts of learners in different geographic locations. And so this is, again, something vitally important to us, and a part of the ethos of ephesiology is doing theology in community. And so we're excited about how it will come together and work collaboratively in wrestling through how we can effectively engage our world with the gospel.
I am listening to all of this, and again, am re-excited by this pitch, re-excited to talk about all of these things. It's a path forward. I mean, it's a path forward for all of us. Again, not just for those who are in higher levels of academia already, or those who are looking to get into higher levels of academia. But this sounds like something that is, again, it's that equipping education for everyone. And we workshopped this equipping education for everyone, everywhere. We added a fourth E just now. But we are excited about this. But there's questions that I have. So very quickly, you just have got me excited about this team. Can I know who's on this team yet? Is that you have basically primed the pump to tell me who's on this team? Can I know who's on this team? That's the first question. Second question is, we're talking about not price gouging. Do we have a price system set in place?
Yeah, well, two great questions, Andrew. Who's on this team? Well, I can say this about the team. You will know who they are. Many of them have been guests on our podcast, and so they're going to be familiar to our listeners. We'll make an announcement soon enough about who our team of experts are. But for now, I can just say that these are some of the people that you will read. You will read their books, and you probably have already read their books. And part of my excitement as I've been interacting with this team is just looking at the impressive number of texts that they've written. And those are the texts that are being used in seminaries today. And so I'm excited about that.
So to answer the question, will you know the people on this team? Yes. Can you know yet? No.
Right. Not yet. we are
Keeping the lid on that right now.
we're keeping a lid on that right now. Our goal is on June 1st to launch our first master class. And that class is going to deal with the church in times of crisis. And I'm excited about that class as we've been pulling it together, because it's just a phenomenal team that is trying to dig deeply into how the church can respond in a time of crisis. On July 1st, we'll launch our second class that's focusing on how do we get to movement. It's just simply called Journey to Movement. And we'll look at some things in which the church should consider, and we need to consider, and if we want to be a missiologically theocentric church. What are the things that indicate that we are theocentric as a church? And how do we get there? And so that'll be our second class. And then our third class is will launch on August the 1st. And that class is focused on the study of the Ephesian movement. It'll go into much more detail in terms of what that movement looked like and the practicalities of it. How do we, if we expect to get to a movement, what are the fundamental principles that we can employ in our contexts today that will help us to get there? And then our goal is by December, we'll have another 8 to 10 courses that our instructors, even today, are busily thinking through and conceptualizing, and we'll have those available as well. And again, those are dealing with personal competencies, cultural competencies, leadership and ministry skills, as well as biblical competencies. In terms of the pricing, Andrew, that was another great question. We are making this accessible to people. That you will pay a fraction of the cost of what you would pay in going to a seminary for the same quality of education. Again, our team of experts they've taught in places like Trinity and Gordon Conwell and Fuller and Asbury and other seminaries. And so these are top-notch quality academics who understand how to teach, but also how to teach in a way that you will be able to gain some practical and relevant ministry skills that you can employ in your contexts. So we're still working on pricing structures. We're thinking about a subscription as well for the content that over the course of a year, you'll have access to all of our course material as well as access to our experts, so that you can have personal interaction with them as you begin to think about the application of the various courses to your particular ministry context.
Well, and this you can be sure of is that the cost is going to be very accessible, and that we know is key to the success of this, and also building in that kind of interactive community building component to the ongoing learning. And the idea here is that we want to build a ephesiology community. And that community is continuing to feed back into itself and continuing to take in outside perspective and fuel that into the community to build a movement. And ultimately, what we are doing is we don't seek to build a movement around ephesiology, but rather ephesiology is the catalyst for a Christ-centered, gospel-moving movement. So that's what we're about, and that's what we're trying to do, and that's what I think we're going to we're really excited about launching this summer. And we just really pray that this will be a resource for you, our listeners, but even those who have not yet to fully engage with ephesiology yet, that this will be another opportunity for people to hear and to know and to grow. So we're thankful for just this podcast and for you guys and just for our listeners for continuing to engage with us, both on Facebook, but also through the podcasts and even on our website and through our free resources. And we just pray that this will be another great resource for you that we're really excited about and going to be putting a lot of energy and effort into in the future. Michael or Andrew, any last things you guys want to say before we close this thing down?
I think I would encourage you, Matt, as that growing ephesiology community, can you again plug those ephesiology labs so people can know maybe how they can get involved in their next step while these master classes are taking shape?
Yeah, and actually, the vision for the labs is actually we hope that this is actually going to be a critical component to the master classes. Is that as we think about those, if you're a Christian leader, a pastor, or even just somebody who's really excited and passionate about God's movement, we really want to invite you to be part of a growing laboratory community with us as we learn from each other and coach and train and equip. And part of that process is what we hope to bridge into this is actually the master classes become a really critical component, where actually the master classes can feed into laboratories and even potentially regional laboratories as well. We think the potential here is huge. And so we really we're thinking big, we're dreaming big, but we also we're trying to just lead by the Spirit and just let the Holy Spirit lead this and just trust in the Lord as to what He's doing here. So we would just invite you, the listener, if this is like, man, I want to learn more, I'm excited about this, head to ephesiology.com. You can connect with us there directly as well. Tell me about the laboratory, tell me about how do I engage, tell me more about these master classes. Where can I get registered for that first one? This is launching in June. This is head over to ephesiology.com. That's where you're going to learn more about this information. And we'd love to connect with you and hear from you on that.
Amen. Amen. And I think one other thing, Matt, that we've been working on as well, that kind of feeds into the larger laboratory idea, are these mini labs that we're beginning to launch literally around the world. And I'm super excited about folks that are contacting us and saying, you know what, we want to work collaboratively. And so we are seeing mini labs start all across the United States and in different parts of the globe, and want to encourage our listeners too. If ephesiology is connecting with you, if you know the study of this first century movement, this fantastic, phenomenal movement of the Holy Spirit in the city of Ephesus, if that's connecting with where you are, get in contact with us. We would love to interact with you more and learn from you and your experiences as we try to continue to engage in the most effective way that we can in the mission that God has put before us.
We just encourage you too that the mini lab is actually maybe a great starting point to diving into something deeper. And the mini lab idea is really just picking up the book Ephesiology and going through essentially a 5-week study of the book with a team, with a group of people. And we'd be happy to facilitate. We'd be happy to help and coach and lead along the way as well too. And as Michael said, some of these are not just showing up in North America, but even there's a few sites over globally as well that are starting to go through this material and are really engaging with it. And that might be just the first place and the first step to begin before taking even a step further in the journey.
This has been a thrill. I mean, to work with you guys and to begin to work with many others. I'm excited to see what God is doing and looking forward to continuing on this mission.
Us too as well, Michael. Thanks for allowing us to be a part of the journey. It's a true privilege and honor. Well, with that said, we just want to continue to invite you, our listeners, to be part of the growing ephesiology global community. So whether you're an academic, a pastor, a church planter, a leader, or even a spirit-filled Christ follower with a desire for God's mission in the world, we have a seat at the table for you. 3 easy ways you can be part of the ephesiology community. 1, hopefully you've already subscribed to the Ephesiology podcast, and be sure to leave that 5-star rating and review for us, because that's what helps other people find this great podcast and also this content as well. And of course, head over to ephesiology.com, sign up for a free exclusive content delivered from us right in your email. That's a great way to stay in touch with us and for us to stay in touch with you. And then, of course, join the ongoing conversation on our Facebook page by searching Ephesiology. And of course, learn more about the master classes, hear more about the mini labs. You can do that all at ephesiology.com. So for Michael, Andrew, and myself, thanks for doing theology and community with us today on the Ephesiology podcast.